Hey everyone, I'm Yanni. If you know me, it's probably because I love League of Legends, but what you might not know is that I was once a competitive Magic the Gathering player. The release of Riftbound has really sparked that competitive drive again, and that's why I flew across the continent to play in Regional Qualifier Vancouver. While I was there, I had a 5-hour layover in Seattle, where the LCS stats guy, MZ Leo the Chosen, came through with his wife, and we ate lunch. I don't really get to see my esports friends very often, and was very thankful he decided to come through to say hi. As for my group, we kept the Airbnb pretty low-key compared to when we were in Atlanta a few weeks prior. There were only 5 of us this time compared to the 8 that we had a couple weeks ago. Our group consisted of Jacob, who was one of my best friends, our friend Sam, and his brother Acer, otherwise known as Agressia. We all lived pretty close together and tested frequently leading up to the event. Now, why am I telling you this? It's because Jacob literally did not show up. Now, he's a teacher, so he had to work that Thursday, but he assured us that he had landed in Vancouver around midnight. Around 11 p.m., I remarked to Sam and Acer that I thought it was weird we hadn't heard from Jacob since about 3 p.m. He texted us a couple of times during his workday, so nothing seemed that out of the ordinary, but no messages about him getting on his flight or an updated landing time. Odd, but not that odd. Midnight rolls around, and we give him a call. Unsurprisingly, he didn't answer. We figured he was either close to landing, or he might be deplaning or something. We give another call about 30 minutes later, and again with no answer. Cell service can be a little spotty when you first land in Canada from the States, so we started getting nervous. His radio silence did have some plausible explanations. One more call at 1 in the morning went unanswered, and we're in panic mode now. I texted him to call us immediately when he sees the message. At about 1:45 in the morning, we pack it in for the night because we have Riftbound to play tomorrow. But before I head to bed, I decided to text Jacob's mom. While it is 4:45 in the morning back home in New Jersey, she's a bit of a night owl, so she might answer. She calls me almost immediately, and I'm prepared for panic. I answer the phone, and I ask her if she's heard from her son. She sounds almost giddy upon me asking the question. She proceeds to tell me that he never actually booked his flight. This man forgot to book his flight, and he did not tell us.
What?
He practiced so much after Atlanta to be well prepared for Vancouver, and he just forgot to finish the booking process. He tried to get out to us, but flights were now absurdly expensive, and he stayed home for the weekend. After that late night hilarity, the first day begins. I decided that I'd be on Sivir Aurora for the weekend, as my goal for the main event was to make day 2, after I came very close in Atlanta with Lucian. I woke up early to get to the pre-Rift event for some extra reps, and a shot at trying to get a medal card. After a very frustrating round 1 that went 85 minutes and ended in a draw, in an event where draws are bad for both players, I immediately tilt out, and I play like the worst person in the room. It was not good at all. Lost round 2, it was very bad, and dropped from the event, even though I still could have gotten prizing, because I just needed to save my mental. I took this time to decompress by walking around the venue, getting in some games with friends working the event, browsing the vendors, and I even played a couple of rounds to guess the card, win a card with some people at the event. We came in refreshed and recharged the next day for the main event. Not too refreshed because I didn't have a bye, so I had to play round 1. The good news is I've rectified this issue for Hartford. I luckily did not get burnt here as I won 2-0 versus my Jinx opponent. In round 2, I played against fellow content creator A Bunny Monster, who was in this awesome Misfortune cosplay. She was also on one of the toughest matchups for me, Garen Aurora. This matchup is so difficult because many yellow cards like Call the Weak are just insane versus Aurora decks. I looked at pretty hard in game 1, drawing my one of Mind Splitter to take her Harness Dragon so the Mind Splitter could stick around, and then I sabotaged her Aurora to the bottom of her deck. I was then able to land my own Aurora and ran away with the game from there. In game 2, I probably played my best game of Riftbound to date, as I decided not to slam the Aurora when I had 9 mana, and I instead played a slower game of playing my Mind Splitter and bouncing it back to my hand with Pack of Wonders and replaying my Mind Splitter and leaving her with no cards and an Akshan dead in her hand. We are feeling good at 2-0. Round 3 saw me paired into Aurelia, which is a matchup that I've somehow have no experience in, as playtest partners and players in my area just haven't really been playing this deck when I'm around. Game 1, I land my Aurora on curve, I shit out all my dudes, and I kill his Aurelia before he can do much. Game 2, he lands his Adaptatron, shows me a hand with way too many spells for me to handle, and we swiftly go to game 3. While in the previous round, I had played one of my best games, I made a massive mistake here in game 3. I misunderstood how triggered abilities and targeting works in this game compared to Magic the Gathering, and not casting my Flurry of Blades before my Aurora trigger, knowing that I was going to get an Elder Dragon. This results in his Aurelia being saved by Azonia's Hourglass, rather than me popping the Zonias to the flurry before the Elder Dragon enter the battlefield trigger. I have the challenge to burn on the Aurelia, but after I lose my Elder, a lone buffed up Scuttle Crab is enough to beat my Mind Splitter to clinch the game for my opponent. Round 4 was my first experience against Darius, which seems to be quite difficult for Aurora to deal with. Julian's plan was to shit out a bunch of units to the point where any Elder Dragon to enter the battlefields were pretty ineffective. Couple that with the yellow cards in his deck, having some targeted removal, as well as Ash, which is a house against my deck, I took a 2-1 loss. Julian made day 2, so congrats to him. In round 5, I played against my second Jinx of the day, who happens to play at locals with my friend Boulevard and his brother Ryan. Really nice guy, and had a bit of a different build than my first round opponent. While I did win this match 2-0, he had me on the ropes a couple of times in the closing moments of each game. I didn't know it at the time, but round 6 would be my final round for the weekend. I played against Misfortune Aurora, which is fairly similar in gameplay. One of the big differences is that battlefield management is much easier with Misfortune, since you can just gank over your units to other battlefields. In game 1, I held some Auroras and some creatures, as he beat me to having an Aurora on the board, but a well-timed invert timelines absolutely ruined my strategy and my game.
I think you just won the game. Oh. That was a really good invert. Fuck.
After a game 2 win, game 3's was anyone's to have as we went down to the wire. But I had too many good targets to take with my Mind Splitter, and I had to leave his last rights around. He played it, and I had a chance to Fading Memories it, but I chose not to. That decision sealed the game for me, as allowing him to reload a couple of creatures was just a silly decision and a well-deserved loss. I finished at 3-3, which was one game worse than Atlanta, where I went 4-3. I am many years removed from being a competitive Magic the Gathering player, so maybe my card game skills just aren't there right now. I cast way more than I play card games right now. I'm in a very Chinese time of my life with the LPL. Next shot is going to be in Hartford, so here's hoping that I play a little bit better there. After a night hanging out with some esports friends at the event, I decided that I wasn't going to play in the regional rebound. I instead decided to sleep in. I ate some great Greek food at a local spot, and then I showed up to the venue. I did consider playing in some side events or making some additional content, but Agressia's girlfriend, who was here, wanted to learn how to play, and with how busy he's been between his day job and playtesting, and the fact that he was currently in day 2, I decided I'd be the one to show her the ropes, so that's how most of the last day went for me. Afterwards, I was invited to Korean barbecue by Yumi, which I couldn't turn down. It was nice to meet people like Saskio and Pinkward in person and make a lot of new friends. On my way back, I had a short layover in Minnesota where I made the risky play to leave the airport to hang out with fellow LPL English caster Quacks. Much like hanging out with Leo on the way to Vancouver, good times were had by all, and I was grateful that Quacks was able to pick me up and drop me back off so I could head home to the Philadelphia airport and get home to New Jersey. Hartford is coming up soon, and I'll be there. Big thanks to Riot and Diana, who is the community manager for Riftbound, for inviting me out to Vancouver and to Hartford as a content creator. Hopefully I'll be better prepared, and I'll play well enough to make day 2.